Hi, everybody. Well, a question has been raised to Carnival brand ambassador John Hill once again, and he actually did a poll on this. And it's talking about the Serenity deck. The Serenity deck on Carnival cruise ships, and whether or not they should be quiet zones. And while it does skew in favor of one way, I think the brand ambassador kind of feels completely the other way. So a passenger has reached out to John Hill and basically said, you know what, the adult-only area, the Serenity deck on Carnival cruise ships, should be a quiet zone where it's not party time, it's not loud, boisterous shouting, etc. It should be a place of relaxation and quiet for, adults who want to get away from the noise and the partying and the loud music, etc. There should be a place on the ships to go. And they suggested that this being the adult-only area, a place called Serenity, which by definition means calmness, peacefulness, quietness, etc., should be designated there, and more signs should be out saying that this is a quiet zone. Now, when he put out the poll, about 8,000 people right away said, yes, I think that's a good idea and signs would help, etc. And about 4,000 said that things should be fine the way they are. And so it's about if you take it into consideration, 2/3 of the people who voted in favor of a quiet zone. But if you look at the way John Hill worded the actual statement, I kind of think John Hill thinks it should be just left this exactly the way it is, because the way he worded it for if you want a quiet zone, he worded it this way: I agree. I agree. The Serenity deck should be quiet and not full of people laughing, making noise, and fun. That's a pretty one-sided argument. You're supposed to be voting for something, yet he puts it at, hey, I agree, there should be no fun and no people laughing. Yeah, that's kind of trying to skew that whole poll in one direction. And even with that wording, the vast majority, almost 2-1 basically, said yes, you know what, a quiet zone would be a good idea. And the adult-only area sounds like the right place to do it, if you're asking myself. And I'm not all in on putting a bunch of rules for everybody. I'm hoping most people are respectful for other people, but it doesn't always happen. I was just recently on the Sun Princess, and we were up in a top area, in an area sitting there. There were about 5 of us just sitting there and quietly talking to each other, literally like this. And then another table right beside us that started out at 4 and turned into 9. Other people just came and sat with them. They called them over. But then they started singing this song called, I guess it's called Alice. But they start off as blah, 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 and then it goes, Alice, Alice, where the blank is Alice. At the top of their lungs, they shout that part out, that whole line. And then they just burst out laughing, and then they would do it again. And do it again. And do it again. It just kept going on, where they're literally sitting. I can reach out and touch their back on the chair, and they're screaming this out at the top of their lungs, while we're right near the pool area with the kids, with the children. There's families right there, and a whole pile of other people around them. And instead of having our conversation where we were talking like this, all we could do is listen to this beside us, where the blank is Alice. It got so bad that I actually just said, sorry guys, I gotta go. I can't stand this anymore. And I stood up and I left. I didn't want to sit beside people who were shouting in my ear the entire time while I was trying to carry on a conversation with other people. They were completely oblivious to anybody around them, including, the adults sitting around in the area, children walking by, they're shouting out profanities, didn't matter, didn't care, no consideration for others, and they were having a whale of a time. I'll give them that. They were having the blast. They were drinking, they were smoking, they were, just having a grand old time. And there's a place for that and everything, but you also have to consider, is that annoying to other people? Are you bothering anybody else while you're doing that? It's not really no different than taking a speaker, plugging it into your iPhone, and blaring the speaker at full volume while you're sitting there at a table and everyone else around you has to listen to it. Well, that's great if you love that person's music. If you don't want to listen to that person's music, then maybe it's not so fun anymore, right? So, yeah, but unfortunately, people get wrapped up in their own world sometimes and don't think about other people's considerations. And that's kind of what I'm thinking here for the Serenity deck. If you don't want to have a quiet zone, as it kind of sounds like John Hill is leading this in one direction, even though everybody went in the other direction, pretty much. 2/3, right? 2/3 still voted to go, no, the Serenity deck sounds like it should be a calm area, should be a quieter area, etc. Even though John Hill worded it as if you don't want fun anymore and you don't want laughing anymore and you don't want that, it still leaned the other way. If you don't want that and you don't want to change it, maybe rename the Serenity deck. Right? Name it to something else. Name it the Acapulco deck. Name it something. Ibiza deck. Name it something else other than Serenity. The word of calm. The word of peacefulness. Hey everybody, let's go to Serenity deck and make a lot of noise. Does it sound right? Does it sound right to you? Doesn't sound right to me. But yeah, maybe that wasn't the greatest naming of a deck area that they could have come up with. I think the person who designed the deck and came up with the adult-only area of the deck thought to themselves, yeah, I think this is going to be a quieter zone than the rest of the ship. No kids, no shouting, no running around. It's going to be a lot quieter with adults. And it's turning out maybe that's not quite the way it's actually happening on the Carnival Serenity deck.